I always wanted to be a teacher when I started school.
We're here for the students and we want what's best for the student.
And I love watching people learn.
Your teacher, student, academics, curriculum, whatever, that center post, the one that keeps this education together.
Welcome to episode 2 of the Last Best Learning Podcast, a podcast designed for Montana educators, where our mission is to deliver digestible and relevant professional learning that honors educators' capacity in an increasingly busy world. Our state educators empower minds, elevate future, and inspire self-discovery, and we walk beside them. I am Michelle McCarthy. I'm the Science Instructional Coordinator with the Office of Public Instruction, and my partner in crime is...
I am Katrina and I'm State's Math Instructional Coordinator, and I deny any allegations of being a partner in crime. We like to have fun here, and I hope that we've conveyed kind of the human aspect of who we are and why this work is important to us through the couple of episodes you've been able to see with us so far. It is a journey, and we're excited to be experimenting with delivering professional learning to the field in this capacity. Part of that experimentation is through our programming planning. We realized that we really needed to spend some time bridging the gap between the episode 1 with John Summers Flanagan to what we have planned in the future. And we're going to kind of explore the topics of mentorship programs. So when we were discussing that, Michelle and I realized that the transition of why those things are related may not be easily inferable, and we wanted to create some space for explaining how those topics are connected. And that was our goal today. So where this is all coming from, this idea of getting that educator self-care episode and then moving into the mentorship part, is that we really had 2 major areas identified in the data that we have on the field's educational professional development needs. The first area is educator self-care, and the second is educator resiliency. And I'm going to let Michelle really quick define what is educator resiliency and how does it relate to the issue that we all know about is going on right now in the state of Montana and nationally with educator retention.
So we know that there's a direct link between resiliency and retention, because teacher resiliency is a crucial factor in an educator's ability to stay in the profession, encompassing the capacity for us to bounce back from challenges and setbacks and stressors that are inherent in the teaching roles. Resilient teachers are better equipped to handle the demanding nature of the job. And this leads to better job satisfaction and a lower likelihood of burnout. By prioritizing teacher resilience, schools can create a more positive and sustainable work environment, leading to increased teacher retention and improved student outcomes.
Which is why we're all here.
Yes.
And I think, Michelle, that last point of the teacher retention and how that relates to the student outcomes piece is so important, because that quote that we shared in the very beginning of this series was, how do you give your students the best of yourself instead of just what's left, right? And so that's really what we're trying to continue on, that theme of building that resiliency so that you can continue to show up and give your students the best of you, instead of just what remains at the end of the day. So part of that discussion started with, again, that episode 1, and we're going to continue to carry that through. Some statistics as to where we're getting this background and that connectivity between the retention and the resiliency and then the mentorship piece, which we'll explore here momentarily. We wanted to share with you all that there was a report issued by the OPI to the legislature on June 17th of 2024, which stated that there were 1,274 Montana educators who left the field entirely during that year. So during the summer between the start of the 2024 school year. So we had that many teachers leave within the previous year. And the report further stated that the majority of those educators who left came from two age groups: the newer teachers in our profession, and then also our most experienced teachers from our profession. So that group of, I think it was 26 to 30, is that right, Michelle, that we saw in that report?
Yes, yes.
And our 66 and up crowd. So we are going to continue to explore that theme a little bit more, and how building that resiliency can actually affect and promote retention of teachers, so we don't have as many teachers leaving the field in our state. So, Michelle, can you please share with us what do you think makes a teacher resilient? Like what behaviors or activities do they engage in that demonstrates that they are resilient individuals?
Well, I think there's like three main components to that. And the first one I would say would be an understanding of what matters most, what's the most important thing. Another thing would be boundary setting, and also being, which we did talk about with in our last session, in our last episode. And another one would be time for reflection. For the educators. I believe all of these were mentioned with when we had our interview with John, and these are also backed by the Association for Supervision in Curriculum and Curriculum Development, the ACSDAS. I do not know what's wrong with me today. I am so sorry.
We're human. It is the ASCD, to clarify for the listeners.
Thank you.
We have so many acronyms. I'm sure the listeners are very used to hearing things, and I always stumble over, is it MEA, MFT, is it MFPE? So I do that about 15 times a day. But the point that we're really trying to drive home here, I think, is that I hear what you said about that reflection piece and the boundary setting. Boundary setting in particular is something that I think is integral to preserving your capacity and your mental health, and allowing you to be effective teachers. And we talked so much about that with Dr. Summers Flanagan, about engaging in that self-reflection and really understanding, having that self-awareness component, so that you can identify what's important and that you can set those boundaries based off that, right? So I think the way I'm seeing these things play out and connect is Dr. Summers Flanagan set up what teachers should be doing independently and working on their self, right? But that what we're trying to go toward now is that it's not enough to just have a teacher do the self work. We actually need a school system that supports that work, right? And that elevates that self work that our teachers we would hope, have the time and capacity to do. But and we know that practicality and application are sometimes different than theory. But Michelle, if you were going to suggest and kind of explore how a school system might support those characteristics in our teachers, what is one school-wide kind of ecosystem strategy or structure that you think builds those skills in teachers and supports those skills?
Well, my understanding is correct. You're setting this up for our next episode, that it would be a mentorship program. And obviously, this would be the tie-in and why we thought that this episode would be important. Because as Katrina was saying, that it needs to be school-wide, that we need to, it's not just the teacher doing that. The school has to make time for reflective practice and to be able to make certain that the vision is the same for everybody on board. So that would, in a mentorship program, that those are the key components that we would want to set up.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I think you captured it really well. We need to explore how a mentorship program can affect all of these things, and in a therapeutic way, right? That is not only going to address the needs of the teachers, but better equip them so that they can be more likely to meet the needs of their students in their care. So that is what we're going to be exploring in more depth. I'm excited for our next episode, because we're going to look at it. And again, this is one possible solution. I'm backtracking for a moment because it is important to Michelle and I to be clear and intentional in explaining that we don't think that this is the only way to address these needs, but this is one way that we've seen be effective, and one way that is backed by evidence and research, that we would like to share with the field. And we know that there's a lot of experts across the whole state of Montana who have dealt directly with mentorship programs that have been successful, and mentorship programs that maybe have been able to be improved or expanded upon and made better. So we're going to start with a grassroots or hometown generated mentorship program that really started from the teacher level and the educators in the building, bringing it to attention as a need for the district and exploring how they developed that. And then we're going to be exploring a little bit in another episode about a statewide program and how those two things are kind of different, and how teachers across our beautiful state can come together in the spirit of mentorship and professional growth.
I think we want, when the ones that will be following the next episode will also be sharing with you with what is available. If you didn't know that they were out there, that there are even more than one option that we'll share with you. And they're just ways to get going. They're not a prefabricated mentorship program, because they have to be aligned with your community and your individual schools.
Yeah, that's so true. It's not going to work. What works in one school is not necessarily going to work in another. So we can't take the mentorship program at a Class A district and necessarily apply everything about it to a Class C district. What works in Missoula may not work in Heartbutte, right? And we need to. So we're going to be focusing on how, from a overview perspective, schools could get started in having these conversations and developing a program that fits their school and community's needs and culture. So those are things that we're really, really excited to share with all of you in the next episodes. We really do wish that you will join us for those, because we're going to hear directly from experts in Montana who are currently serving in classrooms, or who are currently supporting mentors and mentees that are in classrooms right now. So you won't just hear from me and Michelle, you'll be hearing from people working in the field right now on this very, very important work. Before we leave today, we wanted to spend a little bit of time expressing why we chose mentorship to address all of these things we've been discussing in the context of this episode. I think we've expressed a lot through the course of this episode that there's a tremendous amount of research out there that supports the power of mentorship, but we haven't fully connected the dots on why we think it connects to those resilient teachers who are doing the self-work, and how it can carry into the school. And we wanted to call your attention to this document that we're putting up projection on the screen. This document, for those of you with visual impairedness, is titled Supporting Educator Wellness and Resilience. It's a larger document that was produced by the OPI. We're just going to call out some key components within it, which are that there's these pillars of strategies to support educator wellness and retention. And those pillars are the building positive relationships within the schools, within the community, establishing that supportive school climate, and taking the time to show appreciation, and establishing the mentorship program. And Michelle and I really believe that a mentorship program that's thoughtfully created can address the other four pillars. Michelle, can you briefly explain in your mindset how the mentorship program can address each of these things briefly?
I've never experienced a mentorship program, which I feel, I've been neglected.
Yeah.
But I would, for it to build relationships within the school, it seems like that's automatic in just the mentor-mentee relationship, but also there would need to be discussion on who would best serve different people. So I think there's a lot of getting to know you type pieces in there that I think would strengthen that. Honestly, I struggle a little bit thinking about how it attends to the community. Other than a healthier school has better relationships with those who walk in the door. Just the atmosphere.
Yeah.
I'd have to really stop and think about the richness of that piece.
Yeah. I have an example for you that I
Okay,
feel
perfect.
I feel like a mentorship program could be constructed that would connect to the community by perhaps having meetings, your mentor meetings, and inviting community representatives to those meetings. So, for example, I live on the Flathead Indian Reservation, and if I were attending a mentorship program in this community, it would be tremendously impactful to me as a new teacher or as just a new teacher to the district to hear directly from representatives of the tribe, specifically maybe the tribal education department, on some of the things that they think are key issues that we should be aware of. And then that's because that opportunity would exist. I think you're cultivating those relationships. Another application, instead of making those community members come to you, I think as a mentor, you could, promote or recommend to your mentee that there are community organizations that they could become a part of. Sometimes, especially our rural communities, when we have new teachers move in, it can be, especially if they're not from that community, challenging to know where they can go to socialize, that's safe, or safe meaning appropriate for their
Right.
role in the community. So the mentor, I think, can help that new teacher become connected to the community through making those recommendations. So that's how I see that part playing out. But yeah,
I think those are some really good ideas. Yeah.
Yeah, I think establishing a supportive school climate is kind of inherent, right? When people feel supported by the mentor-mentee relationship, it lifts everybody up. Students can really feel the shift in the school culture, and then they start to, when they see adults modeling mentorship, I think they too start to model with those younger grades. How do you feel like a mentorship program might be created to take time to show appreciation? Like, how about that component of it?
I think that you could do it in staff meetings, but take the time to, just like you would with your students, find detailed pieces that someone did well, whether it be the mentee or the mentor, and from either, or even the administration of the school or any member of the school, to recognize the positive pieces they see, even if it's something along the lines we just talked about, like the atmosphere of the school just feels better.
Yeah.
That's huge.
It is huge. Atmosphere in the school is like, it is a pivot point for how everyone feels. Yes. Yeah. Yes. Well, we are rambling a little bit and we're almost out of time. We did say that we were going to try to keep these episodes around 20 minutes for our listeners. So we're just going to leave you with our typical par for the course here, our quote and our guiding questions. So our quote today is from a journalist named Amanda Ripley. And she says, "Resilience is a precious skill. People who have it have 3 advantages: a belief that they can influence life events, a tendency to find meaning and purpose in life's turmoil, and a conviction that they can learn from positive and negative experiences. Michelle, will you lead us off with our guiding questions for this episode?
Certainly. That I have a little bit of goosebumps from the quote, but I will go on to the guiding questions. So, our first one is, when you consider a successful mentorship program, how do you see it building positive relationships within the community and school? And if you were listening, we gave you lots of hints. The second part of it is, what traits can a mentor exhibit that would help you continue to find meaning and purpose in the turmoil of school climate?
Thank you.
So, thank you.
That's all we have for today. We hope that you'll join us for episode 3 coming next month, where we'll hear from Michael Sitter from Polson High School about their developed mentorship program there. Thanks for joining. As always, we're your hosts, Katrina and Michelle, and it's been a pleasure. Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.